All right, what up? This is Banter for the People. This is the show that's like inside the shows, talking about everything that's going on with our company, with our different creators, just giving you a little bit inside information of what the heck's happened in the Purple Banter world. We got Katia in the house with us. I try to keep on coming on like every week, sometimes every month if we're busy. We started this a while back, and I think I've only posted one of these episodes or maybe two. Because we're busy and it's good, but we are doing a lot right now to like kind of get more consistent. One of the things to just be able to start this whole thing off, we're finally dropping our logo, which you can see like right there. And we got the North Star on it. We got the olive leaves, some good symbolism of like Purple Banter is here to like create like peace and like protect the stars, protect people that like are, providing light within the darkness. And I think we want to continue to be like this brand that is working with great storytellers, whether you're just a podcaster, a comedian, or a musician, and you have like a great story to tell. That provides light to the world, provides a little comedy, a little humor, or is just some dialogue to hopefully understand what the heck is happening in music, sports, comedy, all these different things. So that's what it's about. I hope you all like it. It's kind of trying to be like also like new age, having it like look cool, little vibey thing. I feel like I could see Kanye rocking this logo here. But yeah, that's kind of what it's about. I'll probably get deeper into all of the thoughts I have behind of what this brand is going to be and what that really represents. But you're going to see some new merch that we can put on this link with all that new swag that we have coming out. And I can tell you right now, we've been so freaking busy. And I mean, myself and Katia have just been in the trenches of building this next stage of what this company looks like.
We have not stopped since like January 1st, really, which is dope.
Yeah. I mean, I think at this moment, we have like 32 episodes that we haven't released of various shows. And, if you look at us as a network right now, all you see is like random little Vikings weeklies. You see, Name Drop, which has been absolutely popping. You used to watch Smart and Wild, and you're like, these guys are freaking just like off the internet. They're gone. Cam got suspended, and now we haven't seen him back. Cam's off probation.
Yep.
We've already we have 4 new episodes that'll be coming out with Smart and Wild. 2 of the probation episodes where he's not there, and then 2 new ones with some artists. And we're in this like weird stage because we've caught so much up on this like whole new production value of stuff. So we have deep cuts dropping really soon within hopefully the next month, right?
Yep.
Where it's these 2 girls, Chelsea Briggs and Whitney Phillips. Chelsea Briggs has kind of worked for like Billboard.
She created Hollywire, which is
she's the founder of Hollywire. Yeah. So she's really been in the media space, being that person that you would be a regular within like having a mic at like the red carpet. So she has all these unbelievable relationships within the industry of, just helping people tell those stories. Mm-hmm. And then Whitney, she is a songwriter, and she is probably most known right now for her song that she wrote with Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande, Stuck With You, during COVID. I think that was a kind of a period of time where her career really accelerated. She already has had kind of extensive background with a variety of artists, I think from like
genres
everywhere,
too.
From like Lil Wayne to like, I can't even think of all the different people. But
well, I mean, the one that we just learned, which was super fun, was Delirious.
Oh yeah.
With Diplo, like,
yeah.
Like, oh yeah, like that's me and I'm on the hook. And I'm like, what? Like, who hasn't been drunk in Vegas to that song?
Right.
It's wild.
Right. And so there's shows about platforming these songwriters with the artist, showing the inner workings of how these teams communicate and what it's like to be deep in the studio within the relationship of the songwriter and the artist, and getting that voice out there.
That shapes like our whole culture, which is wild too.
Yeah.
That's what I
Because
love.
we've lived in this space where for the longest time, whenever you heard somebody had a ghostwriter, you'd almost for some reason discount their authenticity as an artist if
Yeah.
you found out they had a team. And which has been just a huge corrupt lie, because when you see artists like Beyonce, she'll have teams of like 17 writers on a great song. And it doesn't take away from the authenticity that she's one of the dopest artists out there. That's what it takes to actually create these songs, that it's just not like one person just behind a
What's
mic.
so cool too is like it shows what when they're revealing this now, and the fact that songwriters are getting more recognition like in this world in general, it also shows like the trust between individuals and the trust between creatives to create something that again shapes our whole lives and our culture, which is so dope.
Yeah. And I think there's always those nuances to what is that relationship. I
Yeah.
think the songwriters are always trying to navigate, how do I get this person's voice out there, but also have my own artistry and craft be
And
seen
not lose yourself too.
within these huge personalities. In the episode after their third episode, we even have them coming out with this huge team of songwriters. We're not going to drop it right now, but you'll kind of hear that on more of these Banter for the Peoples. We're going to start doing some of the production on the Connect with Johnny Mitchell. And so he has really popped as this guy that how do I really explain it? Like he basically like went to jail for drug smuggling.
Yeah, I mean, I love when he references himself and the Connect in particular as like, a little bit of the Anthony Bourdain of drugs, because
Yeah.
he's like in the thing that I'm learning about Johnny and learning about the show, which I think is really interesting. I really kind of figured it was because a lot of his episodes were talking about the cartel and everything that was happening and diving deep into that. But he's going even deeper. Like he has an episode where he was like hanging out with the guys who were running the streets in Harlem in the 70s. Like there's so many different layers to it, and also same thing, like navigating so many personalities and very interesting personalities of that
Yeah,
show.
and he's this guy somehow got himself super deep into being this dude that has the connections with the cartels, bringing product up to Oregon and actually, going to jail or prison for it. And then he ends up being like this pretty like headlining stand-up regular comedian. If you're out here in LA, you're going to the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, Donnie's there all the time in all these different capacities, or the Improv. So he enters this world of drugs with like some credibility, but also with this personality where he keeps it kind of fun, kind of light, but it's also such a heavy-weighted subject. And he doesn't sit here and like glorify these things either. I feel like he doesn't really actually fuck with the whole idea of the weed culture in itself,
No,
but
not at
he's
all. That's so
deeply
interesting.
interested in all of the dynamics, and he's navigated them on a level of, this was his industry for a while. And so he can have a different type of conversation that other people don't even have any sense of being able to dive into. And so we're working with him on his Patreon, which will be a podcast related to his show, The Connect, which is, so it's like the Anthony Bourdain, where he's like really like deep going into the jungle with Sonora Cartel, talking to the people that are security guards of these major cartel groups, or the guys out in New York that ran the city for a while. It's going to be kind of a deeper breakdown of some of those relationships and the conversations that he had. And so we're like super excited about The Connect. Johnny
His
Mitchell
merch
show.
is super, super, super dope.
Yeah.
His website's up. Go check it out. I love it. I'm gonna wear Johnny Mitchell's face or mugshot. It's his mugshot all over LA. Can't wait. I'm just like wearing people's mugshots and headshots these days.
Yeah. We have 40 Tons. Tons Talk is the name of their podcast. 40 Tons is this group that is working on breaking the stigma of where weed is, going from what they would call like legacy weed companies, which are weed companies that were working in the spaces when weed was not legal, from from all like just like being like a dealer to being a grower, and then now bridging into the gap of it being legal, but it's also super, super gray. And
especially with people being incarcerated still for things
right.
that big business now.
And so like their whole business, all their products are based on breaking the chains of injustice. One of their founders is Corvain Cooper, who ended up actually having to serve a life sentence because of the 3-strike policy that we have here in California, but also through getting a weed violation that then extends this thing to life. So he had a non-violent weed offense where he's sitting on a life sentence. And he was one of the last people to get pardoned by Trump while he was leaving office. And it was one of those moments that actually came down to the final hour where they hadn't even got word. Trump had already left office. And they're like, oh my God, we worked on all of this pardoning thing. We thought we had a pretty good chance. And kind of in the middle of the night, it was this guy, Anthony and his wife were building the kind of the case to be able to line everything up to make sure that the pardoning could happen. In the final hour, they finally got it done. They have such an interesting come up because all of the communication and how they promoted getting his name out there. Corvain Cooper was really, really well known through Clubhouse. So a lot of their relationships have actually stemmed through the boom of Clubhouse. And so all of these people are finally meeting each other in person for the first time on the podcast and being like, we've talked together for hours on end about, breaking the chains of this industry. And now we're finally here meeting kind of face to face as Clubhouse dies. All these different groups are now bridging the next gap to how they create this exposure to what they're doing. So just goes to say, we are kind of figuring out where do we always like fit in this industry, because each person that we work with has different needs, whether we're taking somebody from literally the ground floor of, hey, let's work on a logo, let's get a website. I just want to be able to walk in the room and record my podcast. Or we're working with people with more established presence, like the
Stand down what we're drinking.
Or what we're drinking,
too.
right?
Yeah.
One of the top shows for like a drinking podcast on Spotify, right?
Right now, he's like, as of this week, it fluctuates. He's usually within the top 20. He was 26 as of yesterday in the charts of Apple Podcasts, which is crazy.
So interesting with like all these different silos of industry. He's one of the top food and beverage podcasts every single month, or every single week. And but you still get to this point as a creator where I don't want to do like all of this myself. It's such a heavy lift. So we're finding all these lone wolves, bringing them into our pack, and trying to be able to scale, build partnerships. AG1, Manscaped, they have been really good to helping us get these shows into totally new spaces where real money available for these creators, but usually they don't have enough time to even do the deep dive. Like Katia has like gone and built all these relationships with these groups. So we're creating that value, and people like to work with us is just being a part of a community. It's all these people that have lived in silos, not really communicated with anybody as far as where they are with the product that they're delivering, whether it's like a podcast or whatever. I've been just doing this alone or with a very, very small team.
Like everyone kind of vibing, not only vibing with us, but when we brought other people just kind of randomly together, they tend to vibe. And we talk about this all the time that, we, of course, are having constantly conversations with various creators or people have ideas. And the people that are like, they don't maybe fuck with us or they're not vibing with us. They just kind of slightly excuse themselves. And it's not drama. It's just very, very low key. And everybody that we've kind of brought into the wolf pack has really moved and forged together, which has been really, really cool to see and really natural.
Right. We start with, hey, like, let us cut up some reels with you. Let's be loose affiliated partner or asset to the thing that you're like already creating, and then from that build it out. But either way, from the jump, we're doing anything for these groups, we still are bringing them inside the house of, this is our community. That allows you to be able to, we have this huge network of hosts now that will cross pollinate into different groups. Like, we're definitely very inspired by different entities that we've seen that have done it wrong out there, where you see, especially because we're working within Hollywood, a lot of people are spending way too much on trying to overblow production, and there's no middle ground. So one of the shows that we just onboarded, they got a quote from a group that was like, oh, it's going to be like $19,000 a show to shoot. It's crazy.
To put into perspective too, 3-4 years ago, I was working with a budget to do an unscripted, like, it was a travel show. There's travel related. It was a streamlined production, like a skeleton crew, but we were building out like $11K an episode. And that's a full-blown TV show.
Yeah.
So people get a little aggressive out here.
Yeah. And so I want to find ourselves in this niche where I'm super inspired by Barstool Sports. Obviously, I kind of come from bro culture a little bit. So I'm one of those dudes that have been a stoolie for like a long time. And what I respect about what they've done so well is they've found a way to be very streamlined, to be able to bring people up from nothing to being some of the biggest shows on the internet. And, when you're deep in it, people would say Barstool is already popped on the greatest level. But like, my dad doesn't even really know what Barstool is.
He was like, what's Barstool? He was like, what's that bar? We're like,
so we
it's Barstool.
Live in these different communities where we don't even understand where the internet's actually gotten to yet, and what the aspect of a network looks like. When I tell my dad what a network is, he thinks of CNN or he thinks of Fox. And so those are these huge conglomerates of industry that each show that you see has. You could speak to this more, Katia. I know that like you just retired from Red Zone. You just got a retirement check from Red Zone today. But there's like a lot of producers on one sole show there.
Yeah.
And I think a Barstool finally figured out how to have like a bunch of shows that each show usually only has one producer, maybe someone running a camera, and the host. And that's how like most podcasts start from the jump. It's usually one host that does the production and everything themselves. But there's this huge kind of gap in between where culture also is at, because they're so only focused on really sports. But now I think they're trying to like backfill like the comedy world in a lot of their stuff. We want to be a group that is much closer to the ground floor within music, within comedy, and then like also like within politics. And even our shows with 40 tons, weed, incarceration, those different issues, those topics that I also feel a lot of these other entities, if you're just trying to do comedy or just trying to do sports, those feel relatively untouchable. And then a lot of groups, if they're trying to do the political angles, they only work within their own bias. So it's, we're only right-wing programming. I almost said white ring, which is like, that's what, it's like white right. And like, we only live in that perspective. Or it's like we're left, we can only do like all of these types of stuff. When it really comes down to people, we all breathe in this space within the freaking middle. Like, we're all purple if you actually get down to the crux of it. And we're just like, we want all these different conversations to grow and start from the ground up. Stop worrying about being perfect immediately. We'll get there.
Right. Or we won't, because that's actually not real. Like, no one's perfect.
Yeah. And so like this Banter for the People show is kind of bringing people into this internal dialogue, and sometimes the internal wins and sometimes the internal struggles that we have. And we just brought on a full-time editor.
Just huge for us.
Yes.
Not only just for our sanity. I mean, it's huge for the company, but it's more like it took so much off LJ in particular's plate. He can really be the CEO now and not be constantly, oh my God, my eyes are bleeding because I'm editing like 1,000 things.
Yeah, well, and it even got to the point where it's less about me even editing all the time. It was I couldn't even get to it because
Yeah.
we're also on the ground doing all the different
Shooting.
shows. I'll show you right here. Like this is only half of it, but I was like, I'm just stuck with all these little drives. I'm going to Best Buy every day. And for a lot of people, that's still actually not that many. But that's the weird sense of growth where we brought up all this new production. We're shooting with all of our cameras are like
Huge.
4K and 6K, and they're beautiful. And through that, we've been able to bring on cooler shows, but we're still totally learning while we do this. So we bring on this editor that's done like Marvel movies and has been in film and worked for Attention, which is a group that competed with BuzzFeed, but then they ended up dying. So yeah, I mean that's kind of where you meet us in the middle of all this. So this show's not going to be scripted. It's going to be sometimes it'll have its little rants. We're going to bring on different hosts and stuff, but this is where we're at. Like Katia, what are you thinking about like where we're at right now, where we're trying to move with some of this?
Well, I mean, overall excited. We're juggling so many balls. And again, the fun thing to see is, shows like Name Drop where we're like 4 months in and things are really like organically really taking off with it. And we did it the right way too. Like we didn't push things, we didn't like boost things, we didn't like sell our soul. Like to get little wins like that, that's really exciting to see. I think there's so much for us to be so excited about of where we're going. There's the podcast network here. We've got PB&Js happening all the time. And then there's also the layer of we're going to be dropping some products coming up here in the next few months. We'll keep you posted on that. And then I think there's this other kind of side media situation that we've talked about constantly of like, we don't really know what we're going to be in this puddle, but we're going to be here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be in Purple Banter's own type of way too.
And it's like such this weird intersection where everyone looks at podcasts and like, dude, they're oversaturated. It's kind of over. If Joe Rogan like made it out and he's obviously the biggest of all time, but everybody and their mom has a podcast or whatever. And that's all like true. Don't get me wrong. I do think the industry has like certain levels of oversaturation. It does feel like everybody and their mom has a podcast. But when you really get down to it, there's still generations like my dad that just touch the surface of it.
And we're diving into that generation as well, which is going to be really
yeah. He's coming out with his show, The Ship Show, which is going to be kind of an alteration of what Titanic Times was. And his show is a show with myself, and it's really talking. It's a generational show, so it's like a conversation with like a dad and son, talking about the different shipwrecks in life. He's coming out with this book called Sink the Unsinkable, which is a family story of our relative W.T. Stead that died on the Titanic when he was actually going over to Carnegie Hall to speak on a peace convention where he had some really inside knowledge on what was happening within human sex trafficking at the time. Oh, what's up? Do we get some more gear? Oh, AG1. There we go.
What perfect timing.
An unboxing. Let's go.
Okay, like a random.
Did they give you like the whole new starter pack again?
Apparently, I had no idea.
Wait, am I supposed to get one today, or where am I in on this one?
I don't know.
I better be in on this one.
Oh my God. I'm like at my door.
That's awesome. There we go.
Presents. I get a retirement check and AG on the same day. Do you think I'm like registered for AARP?
I'm looking at my door.
Their branding, I know unboxings are like fucking lame, but their shit is so cool. Like, what are we talking about here? I love it. I love a good crisp. I did get a whole starter pack. I'm so pumped. This is amazing. Perfect timing.
Yeah, let's see the like where it's the whole starter pack again.
Yeah.
That's
Love
it.
it.
Yeah, give them promo. Let's see it.
Oh yeah. No, I showed everyone. It was great.
Oh, you did. You did. Okay.
Yeah. Got the whole thing rolling. Everything's rolling.
So,
This
um,
is like so cute too. I love it.
one, you get to see that like this is where we're at with this company, and we're just gonna like let people in on some of that dialogue and try to be as transparent as possible. Um, yeah, to finish up my dad's show, it's just being able to learn from other people's mistakes and kind of all within like the premise of the Titanic. My family's addicted to the Titanic because of our relative that was on it. And there's a lot of nuances to that shipwreck that of stories that people maybe like had never understood. The richest guy in the world was on it at the time. He was super good friends with my relative. They have reason to believe that the sinking of the Titanic was actually more of like a 9/11 event than it was of just like a happenstance random event that just happened. It seemed there would have been reason to actually like sink it. And then also, I haven't told you about this, Katya. We are going to start a Swerve podcast with Tobias.
This is fun. Okay.
Yes. So Tobias is a recording artist out here in LA. He's from Georgia, one of the craziest generational talents. He performed at my wedding. He's like this cross between like, I mean, you certainly when you hear his music, you feel some Michael Jackson, you feel some John Legend. There's some Bruno Mars. It's all in. There's a little bit of like The Weeknd, like in some of his music, but we also within Purple Banter, he is one of the artists that we work with. So it's not always just random podcasts too. Like as a young company, we're still trying to learn where we fit in all of this. Yeah. So like we're Purple Banter is a business partner with his company Swerve. This is the symbol right there. Swerving is like you're trying to find a job and you're at the grocery store and you meet a person who's, oh, you're trying to get in finance and like, yeah, oh my dad worked at JP Morgan and like I have a friend that works at JP Morgan. Let me get you like an interview with him. That's a Swerve. That's like those random little happenstances of life where you're like, that just kind of worked out and it's just working through these different little things. So the Swerve podcast is going to be a music industry focused show that's going to bring you into the conversations around Tobias as a young LA artist and moving through where he's at in his career, bringing on different people that he's working with, being able to like.
I have so many ideas. I'm so excited.
I mean, his show, he is so connected in the craziest level of all of these different aspects. I mean, he had a huge career within film production where he was doing music videos. And then he has a feature film that's going to come out next year. He has a EP that's dropping in 2 months and his album will drop at the beginning of next year. So like where we're weird with that was like, we're helping making sure that some of those little relationships, whether it's elements of his small California tour, not small, but like 5-city tour that's happening in California, kind of happens the right way. Those kind of have branched from like where the PB&Js have come from, and then bridging some of these business gaps, because that's what that whole star with the olive leaves was from the beginning. We see these stars, and not just stars in the sense of the way that you think of Hollywood stars. It's a little bit of that, but it's also stars in the sense people that are illuminating light that give us a little bit of hope, get us a little bit excited, let us like see things differently. It's like we just are like those olive branches that are trying to protect this different thing through peace. Olive branches are also like reconciliation, which is like helping communicate, give a little bit of grace to people. Being, you might not understand this person, but like give them a chance.
Stay tuned for Katia's olive branch tattoo that is getting out. Maybe we do a purple for the banter for the people at the tattoo shop.
That would be sick. That would be sick.
Olive branch tattoo.
Yeah, I mean, we got the Greekness and the olive branches. It's all dialed in. It's a North Star because we're from Minnesota. all the goofy things that you need in a logo to have it really mean something deeper to you. So, man, I don't even know where you do have a come up with Katia coming out pretty soon here. So,
A couple. We're gonna do so. Come up with Katia, reality, and LJ will get it too with Smart and Wild. You know, the reality of running a company and also having your own show is like your show gets thrown to the wayside, and you know it's fine, but it's not. You know, that's the foundation of Purple Banter still. So reimagining what it looks like and realizing that consistency is king in this business. So coming out with seasons of the come up versus, hey, here's one, and then we'll drop it and drop it. So we're in recording, have a couple recordings happening, and then figuring out when the season will launch.
It's tough when you have your own shows on your network because one, everybody that we're working with could leave us at any moment.
100%.
They could just say like, hey, like we do have contracts with some people, most people, but like at some point they could just be like, dude, we're done. You can get stolen. It's just the reality of it. And like, that's the way the world is. But we do get we come last when it comes to being able to have the energy and time to get our shows out there, even though they'll probably be like the longest running on this. We're trying to like make sure that what those are is foundational pieces that I think also that we care so much about, they live on and we don't like forget about them. But we've been in this crazy mess of we literally started flying this plane before we had it built. And so like, it left the ground and we're like, oh my gosh, one, this gear, this definitely doesn't come with landing gear. This plane has taken off. We don't even have enough gas in the tank. We don't even have like the ability to stabilize this thing. Half the passengers aren't even on board yet. And you just get going. And that is the element of this entrepreneurial thing where this spawned out of nothing. It literally spawned from, I don't even know why we got coffee that one day in Hollywood. You know, because I think Juice Spot was still in
you were on the edge.
It was just still in flux. Juice Spot was a company I started 10 years ago with two of my best friends, Kamal and Eric. We built it to 25 employees. We raised like $3 million, and then our investors like embezzled a bunch of this money and just like tanked it out of nowhere. And so
stay tuned for the screenplay of Juice Spot coming.
I always envisioned building this like Purple Banter concept when I was at Juice Spot, but I also was sitting at Juice Spot being like, look, I'm going to come away from Juice Spot. We're going to have 30 million, 100 million bucks. Kamal's going to be a billionaire, which Kamal would be a billionaire regardless. Go to Stead. It just got ranked the top restaurant in Minneapolis by Minneapolis Magazine. The only thing
it's not hype. Minneapolis. It's like really fucking is that good.
Yeah, it's the best new restaurant in Minneapolis, and he came from literally 3 years ago not having a restaurant. He had Nashville Coop, where they started in these food trucks. They built it out to 3 food trucks. Now they have 5 stores. Then he basically says, hey, my family and myself built Nashville Coop. I'm going to go out and do my own venture. This kind of random idea builds this thing, and now it's literally the best restaurant in Minneapolis. And so to come from all that, it gets to these weird moments in life where be careful for what you kind of pray for and what you wish for, because God might give you all of that. So I was like,
in the form of embezzlement of investors.
Yeah. So I was always so interested in media, and sports is always the easiest, most obvious angle in. And Katia, from afar, like we weren't like the best of friends in college. We knew of each other. You dated a few of my friends. You know, we were just in passing. Like, I don't know if we ever had a single conversation, just me and you together.
It wasn't know what I mean? Barney's and Vikings. Yeah, because like Kamal and I have known each other.
Yeah, it was a little bit more through like that friendship of how we would have been at Barney's, and then you would have connected through Kamal, and then you were there. Yeah. And so, but from afar, because of Instagram and Facebook, I always knew, when we moved to LA, that's right. Like Katia lives out here and she's been doing sports and media her entire career. So we wanted to start this. I think we just like sat down one day and we were like, I was trying to figure out what Juice Spot was doing, and you were kind of talking about some of your stuff. And that's where I was, dude, let's just like start this Vikings Weekly podcast. Yeah. We jump on Zoom once a week, just talk some shit, and let's just have fun with it as like a hobby project. Because I think we were both in spaces where like we don't really know what's going on. So like, yeah, I have like a little bit of time for a hobby. Now fast forward 2.5 years later, and we're like, oh, we have like some things moving.
And real. Vikings Weekly is another one of those that were like, we dropped the ball a little bit this season on some of the episodes. Like I was there like half the time because of Red Zone. And but now like we have such a clear vision. Johnny Sweets is always the foundation of Vikings Weekly as well, but we're gonna bring in another guy who's like crazy Vikings fan. We're gonna pass the reins a little bit and have them kind of lead the charge and keeping us in line with Vikings. And I truly feel that Vikings Weekly next, as we're building in the off season and going into next season, is going to be like one of our most exciting shows, which it hasn't been in full.
Like the lives are super fun, right?
It's so fun. I can't wait for draft night again. That's going to be so much fun.
And we met Tim, which is our biggest show right now, through a live. So it was during the Vikings Phillies game. It was during the game that Vikings got absolutely annihilated. We're setting up the live. Katia comes back and she's like, I just met this like wild Phillies fans. He's calling me hoops because you had like these big hoop earrings on. He's yelling "Fly Eagles Fly." Oh, he's coming on the mic here in like 5 minutes. So like get ready. And boom. Before you know it, he's one of our favorite people, one of our great friends, a person that we work with on a daily basis. And he's introduced us to this whole other weird world of Sphere. That's how we're interviewing. Steve will do it. And like the Bob Meneries of the world, somehow like we had already had him on Smart and Wild. Yeah. And I think that's how I actually knew Timmy, through like some of his like Instagram stuff. And so we also find ourselves always like kind of circling that world too. Yeah. And within this last 2 months, we've also had weird deals almost happen, but not. We almost did this like huge, big Rumble rollout at the Super Bowl that just didn't quite happen. We literally almost did all of Rumble's production at the Super Bowl.
It was wild.
Where it would have been like Steve and Bob and maybe even like a Russell Brand kind of thing.
Dana White.
Yeah.
It was crazy for us to be in the conversation. I don't think that relationship is not over. So stay tuned. That will happen. But off of that too, which is kind of exciting. Again, it didn't transpire. There was too many
moving parts, like, and it was such a short window of time.
But you know what happened of that? We ended up doing Banter in the Desert in our like awesome RV situation. And then, which is leading to, we're almost, and I can't guarantee anything, but I would say by the end of the weekend, we're going to hit our first 1 million view reel on Instagram. And I can say it here, and like, I no shade on paying to play. Like we've boosted things here and there. No lie. Most people do it. We did not touch this reel. We did not touch anything on it. And for some reason, some people popped it off and it is everywhere. I mean, I was with friends a couple days ago and they were kind of giving me shit. They're like, you showed up on my suggested page. Like, how much you pay for that? And I'm like, nothing, literally nothing. I have no idea. It is the most organic growth.
Yeah. Ever. Because that's the weird part about doing this stuff too, is you always get into this weird mindset of, hey, you want people to view it. My phone's always blowing up with like, hey, this is how you can get more followers, or this is how you can get more viewers. And then when you even get in the deep tranches of people that are leading the internet, you also realize that they're playing in this same game too. So but they always say that they have different type of account that is authentic. But the more that we go into the weeds and we get back in the analytics, this is no more real than like literally the $5 thing that you can buy. But then they're like, sometimes it does spawn like a little bit of realness that you see within their like organic growth. And we've definitely tried some of those little metrics. let's see like what it looks like. Let's experience, like, let's like literally like, let's try buying some followers. Let's try buying some views. Does that like help? I don't think it does. And so we've actually had to like kill some of those accounts because it also makes that account dead.
Yeah.
Because if you build it up with all these people that aren't real, what are you doing? You're literally like posting into this abyss that doesn't make any sense. So when we started to really focus on like Purple Banter's Instagram, which we never touched with anything, let's just drive hard on doing what we know is right. Like, let's have funny conversations. Let's link on great guests that have followings that like we collaborate and share with to then be able to grow that stuff. And before we know it, finally this month, we're like, okay, things are starting to pop. Timmy's example, we've done nothing with his shows. And like, boom, it finally started to roll over. It sounds so goofy right now. We finally had one show go over 1,000 subscribers. But literally within about 48 hours of his show going over 1,000, he then got like 250 through that little thing. So you get in these like different metrics of the algorithm, and it does like the snowball does start.
It starts, and then it's just human nature of no one wants to be the first, but no one wants to be the last. So then when people start, you're in it, they're like, oh, wait, that is actually cool. Let me get on board. And you're like, well, we've been cool. You just weren't around.
That's the only value I think that we have in this whole landscape of entertainment is we are a vibe attracts your tribe company.
Yeah.
And I don't know why people fuck with us. I'm so happy that people love us and like mess with us, or not necessarily love us, but they're like, you're cool enough to hang out with for a second. Like, I'll have a beer with you. Our tribe is dope right now.
Yeah.
Like the little wolf pack that we've created, every single host and creator is so different. Not everybody even agrees with each other. I am so excited to see where their successes go, because everyone is deserving of all the stuff. And we have a real A team of people within this crew.
Yep. And everyone has their moments, as they do. But what's so cool is everyone's energy is, I don't know if I can use the word humble, because we all love ourselves. We're all like ego, but everyone's like very chill at the same time. No one is like, I'm a superstar. I'm too good for you. And that's what's cool of people that have really like attracted within our vibe too.
I mean, I can tell we're on just a crazy journey.
I know. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. So this is the long-winded version of Banter for the People. We're going to bring on some more of our hosts. It's going to be like this sometimes. We got new name drop merch up. Go check out the Connects merch. The Connects merch is awesome.
I gotta order some of that today. Find me.
And then our Purple Banter stuff. So we got some of the like logoed stuff that'll be out on this as well. So it's a lot. We get it.
It's a lot.
This like, and also you got to realize, like, if you're actually watching this episode when it drops, you're gonna go, LJ and Katia, like, yeah, it's great. You were so long-winded. This is stupid. Nobody's gonna listen to all this. I get it. Totally understood. But there is elements to some of this media form that I look at more like in a time capsule. Mm-hmm. So when you look at this in 10 years, and this now is a company that is thriving and surviving and creating an impact in comedy, politics, and music, you're like, they actually were willing to talk about this shit early, and we don't know where it is. Maybe I'm like an accountant in Minnesota. But we got good things happening here. So over and out.
Yeah.
Swerving. God bless.